I've had some special forces vets on the show with whom I've discussed combat in detail. And to cut it short, they said that combat feels a lot like a football match or a basketball match with your own teammates, their position, uh, combined team play, collective consciousness. So that's how I always imagined a battlefield to be at a much larger level. But I think what you're saying now is that it's become much more a chess match than a football match, right? Where you kind of have a top view and you're anticipating the next moves. You're trying to be even more strategic about what the enemy ends up doing and what you end up doing.
You've hit the nail on the head. The key differentiator now is who has the better information faster. Or another way to put it is who has the better OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, act. Who can go through that process faster? Whose loop of a new piece of information, a new bit of analysis, a new decision, and action bases that decision, who's going through that process faster? That's really what it's coming down to. Not just faster, but obviously more accurately as well, right? And so, to your point about the analogy between a sport versus, say, a game like chess, you're absolutely right. I think that commanders historically had to accept the fog of war. They had to accept that once they've decided their initial plans, they just simply won't know when something is happening live on the battlefield because they're a little bit behind, right? I mean, and you have to therefore leave it to your junior officers that are on the ground to make good decisions. And that's where the psychology of combat became so important, where, the man on the ground has to be able to make the decision and work with the team that he has around him, etc. Now, it's becoming about the density of information at every level. So, if you're a US Special Forces guy, you might now have a handheld on your arm that's providing you with as rich an environment picture of your little 5 kilometer radius around you as the battalion commander has of a 50 kilometer radius, right? So information is becoming the key metric at every stage. If you're a US Special Operations guy, you probably have a drone that's capable of going and entering a building before you need to go, in order to be able to figure out what's inside that building so that you take lower risks and you have the maximum possible information before you decide to actually go and make contact with the enemy.
Okay. I have a bit of a two-pronged question. Okay. So let's look at kind of ancient battles, medieval battles. If they happen on a battlefield between two kingdoms, one kingdom wins, the other kingdom loses.
Right.
The winning kingdom then probably goes to the location of the losing kingdom and plunders and takes over, whatever.
That's right.
That's how war worked.
Pretty accurate.
Okay. Say the Kargil war. Okay. Where the Pakistani military had occupied those key points in Kargil. We had to basically go and take them out.
Yep.
That's what we did. The Indian military went up to those battle points and won them back. At some point, the Pakistani military went back, right? But from everything you're saying, we're talking about unmanned vehicles, unmanned drones, unmanned marine weaponry. Will the future of battle be something like robots fighting each other? And then the winning side allows its robots to actually go into the geographical location of the losing side's human beings.
No, I think we're still some distance away from, war becoming completely dehumanized. By dehumanized, I mean...
Unhumanized.
Exactly, right? I mean, for war to no longer be something that humans need to participate in. I think that we're still some distance away from that. What I think the next era, and I might even say the next couple of decades, so much longer than 5 or 6 years, might be defined by is this concept of the human-machine team. So think of every application now as no longer about the soldier alone, but about the soldier being teamed up with a piece of software, like a battlefield AI assistant, who's with him at all points in time, as well as being teamed up with unmanned platforms, right, like drones or UGVs or USVs, and so ground or sea vehicles. And so the idea is, about a gradual transition. Really, is would be my answer to your question. Where yes, eventually, in theory, one could speculate that 100 years from now, maybe warfare's become entirely roboticized, and the way nations go to war against each other is, sort of it's our robots versus yours. And then what happens after a war of that nature, again, is a different question. But I think all of that, the reason it's a bit speculative is that the nature of state-on-state conflict has changed dramatically, right? I mean, it's very rare now, even though it's happening in Ukraine, for a country to simply be involved in a conflict with the aim of gaining territory, right?
Hey, if you enjoyed this clip from The Ranveer Show, we've uploaded a ton of other clips related to a ton of other topics. So explore the channel because there's something for everyone.